Whoa. Whoa. I better go wake up Mike. Hey Mike, wake up!
Merry Christmas, Matt.
Hey, Merry Christmas. Looks like Buddy Claus dropped our presents down the chimney like he does every year.
Yeah, well, what else is new? So, I wonder what we got here.
Can't wait to see.
Yeah, let's go ahead and open this first one. Hopefully it's something good.
All right.
Go ahead and unwrap the first one.
All right, here we go.
Whoa! Holy shit!
Whoa, check it out. Batman Returns on DVD.
Holy crap, man.
That's a great choice, actually, because it's like a Christmas movie and
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Like a comic book movie.
Right.
Cool.
Awesome.
Great choice.
Thanks, Santa.
He did it again.
Yeah, he did it anyway.
All right, got one more to open.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Hopefully we'll get something as good as Batman Returns here. What the fuck?
That's not even a Christmas movie.
Dude,
Why?
We must have done something fucking horrible here.
Must have been bad buddies.
Yeah. Well.
Ah!
Yeah. Shit!
Vertical Limit.
Holy crap! It's a movie. Thanks, Santa.
Not good.
Not really, though. Maybe that one is from Santa and this one was from Krampus. We fucked up or something. Okay, guys, well, let's start the episode, I guess.
All right, let's do it.
Well, here we are.
Hey,
It's the Christmas season.
Merry Buddymas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays. And this is our Christmas special. It only comes one time a year, as Christmas does.
Oh, great. We didn't miss it.
Like Scrooge style.
Go get the Vertical Limit DVD. You mean the one as big as me?
It's like, huh? So, yeah, this week we've got 2 features. It's Christmas week, St. Nick week, Vertical Limit, and Batman Returns. So,
Yeah. So we're going to start with Vertical Limit.
yeah.
This was an experiment, and I'll take the blame for this. It was my idea.
You mean it wasn't Santa?
It was Buddy Claus.
More like Satan. That bastard.
So we saw Vertical Limit back in the year 2000 in theaters when it came out.
It's the only movie I've ever been to that was actually free that I've ever gotten a ticket to that I wanted to leave.
Yeah. Because our friend was an usher,
Yeah.
and he just let us in. And it
Sure.
sure. It was not worth the $0 we paid. And
Yeah.
for years, we always said it was like one of the worst movies we've ever seen.
I would have been even more pissed, I think, if I would have paid money for this back in
yeah.
the day. You're like, nuh-uh. Not true.
So what did I do? I did pay money for the Blu-ray, and we watched it again.
So I guess before we get started on that, though, are there any special features here?
Yeah, there's quite a bit, actually.
High definition widescreen. Yeah, so we got commentary by the director Martin Campbell and producer Lloyd Phillips. As Easy as Falling Off a Cliff, which is, I'm assuming, a documentary. It doesn't say that. It just says Avalanche, another thing. Peak Performers, The Death Zone, Vertigo Magic. Vertigo is not magic. HBO special Surviving the Limit. Oh my god. The Elixir of Life.
That'll be hard-hitting, I'm sure.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I've been wanting to like revisit some movies that we haven't seen in a long time and just see if our perspective has changed things, because that can happen.
Like Signs, when I shit all over it, and then I did the Buddy re-review segment and went back and watched it and was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I would put it in a top list now, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I might say that's his best film, in my opinion.
It's always been my favorite of his.
It's always a pleasure.
Even before I saw it. When I saw
pleasure.
Sixth Sense, I was like, Signs is going to be even better than this.
Like, it's a pleasure. You can measure. But anyway,
and why is Vertical Limit a Christmas movie? It's not.
Yeah.
It just has snow in it. It was the only way I could justify it. Which is so stupid.
I think one of the reasons why I went along with this was because we were talking about Batman Returns, and it was just like, okay, I've got something to look forward to here. But I was totally on board with you, though, for revisiting it, because this is something we both forever had been like, nothing's as bad as Vertical Limit. That's the worst movie I've ever seen. It's like pure dog shit and all this other stuff. The question is, does it live up to the hype that we've been putting it on all these years?
No.
Yeah.
It's not very good, though.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
One thing that I think that after all these years of seeing movies since Vertical Limit came out, and not even for this podcast, but just movies we saw just in general, I've seen way worse movies than this movie. But having said that,
when I was watching again, I was wondering why we thought it was so bad, and I think it's because the opening scene is so laughably terrible. It sets the movie off at like a horrible pace.
The whole movie, I mean, we'll get
that
into
opening
it.
scene is an all-time doozy of like, it's bad.
Yeah. The problem is it doesn't really get any better than that.
Yeah.
But I guess before we get too far into it, what is Vertical Limit? We've shown the cover. You see, at the time, Robin, Chris O'Donnell, and fucking Fantastic Four guy, with the Human Torch or whatever. And then we've got Bill Paxton, Robin Tunney, and Scott Glenn. I honestly, obviously, I mean Bill Paxton, but I don't really know what these other two people have been in.
Robin Tunney, she was the lead of End of Days with Arnold. And I really like her from that movie, and she's good in this. And Scott Glenn is my favorite role of his was he's the bad guy in Urban Cowboy.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say he's in this movie. It's kind of like, I guess we'll get into it, but I guess we get into it now. But I pretty much thought that like he's good in this, and I don't want to take away from him, but like anytime I see someone, he kind of looks like Lance Hendrickson, and I was like, man, Lance Hendrickson would be awesome.
That's a good point. He's got like the craggly face.
Right, but at the same time, I don't know if that would make the movie really that much better. Like, he's great, but
there's no saving this.
Yeah. So, this is a movie about fucking climbing mountains and shit, and just climbing in general. So if you're a big, like, climbing fan...
Don't watch this movie.
This movie is for you. For everyone else
it's not. You beat me to it, but there's some great trivia for this about how like inaccurate every single thing.
Well, I'm saying like if you're a fan of like I guess like watching people climb, at least there's somewhat climbing in this film.
Yeah,
but there are better movies to watch that have climbing in them. Like Cliffhanger comes to mind.
That's what I was thinking the whole time. Like Cliffhanger is awesome, and this movie's not awesome. And at no point did I believe anyone was climbing a mountain. Like the special effects, the way it's done. Well,
it's also it seems like there's a lot of sets almost in this film, and it's pretty blatant. But this movie, let's see, you talked about like the cast, but this came out in 2000, December 8th, just in time for the holiday season, and it got mixed reviews at the time. And it grossed $215 million. I don't know how much they spent making this film, but I didn't really look up that.
Yeah.
But the plot is Chris O'Donnell must rescue his sister on top of K2, one of the world's biggest mountains. So they pick like the second largest mountain, which is kind of weird because usually when they make movies, they're like it's the biggest, the best, and it's like they went with the second biggest mountain, which.
I read somewhere that this actually was written as a sequel to Cliffhanger.
I read that same thing, yeah.
Which kind of makes sense because it's pretty similar.
Yes.
But worse in every way. Here's this piece of trivia I thought, or it was actually a goof on IMDb.
Oh, cool.
I think this sums it up pretty well. Everything shown about belaying and climbing techniques, high-altitude mountaineering, helicopter usage, high-altitude medicine, high-altitude mountaineering clothes, and the shape of K2 is wrong.
The helicopter usage was especially ridiculous.
Dude, it's so bad. The scene that lasted for like 9 hours where they're trying to get on the helicopter. I was like,
and the lady
let it end.
Gets chopped up when they're like landing it. I'm like, what is this? So
You know you're off to a bad start when the first shot is a CGI eagle.
That's my first note, CGI animals.
It looks like a PlayStation 2 video game.
I was kind of surprised. I was like, holy shit, I remembered this not looking this bad.
It's bad, man.
So,
that has to be some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in a theatrically released movie.
Yeah, it's like it needed another render or something, or 10. So when would you go climbing and not have your backpack on your back and just drop it with rope in it? The answer is you wouldn't, and they just use it as a device to have everyone.
They did it anyway.
Off. So they're climbing the Chris O'Donnell, the son.
O'Donnell.
How does it feel?
Hey.
Robin Tunney, the daughter, and some other dude, the father.
Stuart Wilson
are not there with the Holy Ghost. Yeah, so he's in this movie for like 5 seconds, and he laughably falls to his death, like Wile E. Coyote style. They have this predicament where the two people they're like bringing up to like climb fuck up, and they fall to their deaths.
Bill and Ted.
And so it's like, what's the thing? Are we gonna all die? Or are we gonna cut loose the father? And the son has to make the choice, and he makes the choice and cuts his dad loose. But you don't see him like fall. You see like the cutting of the rope, and then like they just cut to like a still. They just cut to this canyon floor, and his body just is like boom, and it's like.
Who thought that was a good idea? Like you said, it's so funny.
The edit is it's like that's what you do when you're trying to make people laugh. Like it was. I think like probably what they were trying to do is shock people, but it was shockingly funny. Yeah, it wasn't.
I was LOLing all day.
Yeah. So and then we
just everything like the dialogue, the acting.
So that's like the main setup for this film is that like there's a divide between like the brother and sister because she's like this thing would have held and you killed dad and they're putting some sort of like rift between the kids. So.
Yeah. And it's the exact same setup as Cliffhanger. And if you compare that scene in Cliffhanger to like that scene is one of the most
it has
intense,
tension,
well done, like great scenes I've ever seen. And this is not the opposite.
Well, it's also like iconic and stuff, whereas this is just kind of like So then we cut to like I don't know, I thought it was CG animals, but maybe it was real animals at one point. Fucking flopping around in the snow. I don't know, man.
What can you say about this movie? Like, I will say some positive things about it. It's got a big cast, and like a lot of the people in it, I'm happy to see them.
Yeah, so we've got Tamara Morrison, who is like an awesome actor, and he deserves better than this.
Jango Fett.
Yeah, Jango Fett / Boba Fett, and stuff like that. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Dr. Bashir.
He's Your
boy.
We've got Siddiq, Dr. Bashir. Alexander Siddig is in this as Kareem Nazir.
I thought he was pretty good in this.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, for me, like obviously it was nice to see certain people like him. It was cool to see.
Check from X-Files.
Tamara Morrison. Yeah. It was nice to see. I mean,
I only know these people by their character names.
I like Chris O'Donnell. He's fine.
I don't think he's
not great in this film.
He's not good enough to lead a movie like this. I don't think. I think that's a big problem with this movie.
I don't think really anybody in this film is good enough to lead a movie. Yeah. The problem is we've got like the C Squad, like the people that were like the like sidekicks in this film, like Morrison and like Bashir. They should have been like the main characters, and the people that were the main characters should have been like the fucking side characters. Because at least for me, like over time, I'm looking at this and I'm like, Chris O'Donnell's been in big stuff, and so have some of these other people. But like when I look back at everyone's work here, like I hold like Morrison and Bashir higher than these people, just because of they turn like the shit they're given in films into like good parts. Whereas like if Chris O'Donnell or like any of these other people would have been given like these side roles, they probably it would have been forgettable.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the true mark of like a good actor. Somebody that can turn like chicken salad into or chicken shit into chicken salad, not turning. I guess you would turn chicken salad into chicken shit after you ate it, but
only if a chicken ate it. Though.
Yeah, true. So naked guys running around for some reason. These are the two Australian fucking.
That's always fun to do in the snow.
Yeah, run around naked. Two Australian comedy reliefs that. I guess somebody at some point thought was funny, but they're just kind of like bastards. I mean, I was never really on board with this movie, but like one of the things that kind of like just got to me was when I was watching it and they were trying to recruit people to go up and like save the sister, and the fucking brothers are like, well, you guys are a bunch of fucking wankers, and they're both like, we're in, and I was like, dude, fuck this, like this is just so formulaic.
Exactly. Very formulaic, so predictable.
The two brothers that have to like, it's like they have that, and those guys both get munched, which is like good. But sadly, fucking Bashir gets munched, and like, which I knew he was gonna die. I mean, of course he's gonna die. He's fucking not the main guy, and he's fucking, playing, this character that's going after his cousin. Somebody's got to like fail at their mission. So I had a note here after seeing Bashir that said, "Who cares about this fucking movie? Why isn't this about a Yeti or something interesting like the search for like Hollow Earth or like trying to find Shambhala? Like this easily like use the secluded environment to do something like The Thing, or like they have this secluded environment, like a place where like very few people ever go. You can't just go to a hospital. Like you need to be helicoptered out. Like." And instead, it's like you never feel like you're secluded. Like, even the part where like the three people were like trapped underground,
in a set.
Yeah, has been done better on both like Stargate SG-1. They have an episode where people like the main people almost die.
That's
and
like
then,
every fourth or fifth episode in Star Trek.
Resident Alien has a way better episode in like second season of that, or I think it's the end of the first season. And it's like it's far better than this. And this was the whole movie's thing, was being on a fucking mountain. And that was just an episode for one of these fucking shows.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but like I keep comparing with Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Like their mission statement in that movie is we're going to show real people on real mountains.
Right.
It's going to be scary to look at. And in this, it fails. Like it's so
you never have that like tension or like something's going to happen. Like you never get the feeling of like height, like, or that there's a vertical limit.
Yeah.
You never get that feeling of like if you're afraid of heights that like your palms get sweaty. You know that like
Mom spaghetti.
Yeah.
Did you like Scott Glenn's fake beard that he shaved off? Why is he wearing a fake beard?
I was like, do you like? I honestly was like, fuck this movie from like one of the first scenes when I saw some dude's fucking toeless foot. But then I found out it was an actual climber that lost his foot, and I was like, or not his foot, his toes, and I was like, okay, well, whatever. So I have a note here about like, I was like, this Ed guy's acting is horrible. He's fucking piece of shit. And then I looked it up, and he's like a well-known climber.
There you
go. He wasn't even an actor. He's like, he was somebody that worked with the actors to train them how to climb. But I was like, too bad he didn't like get acting lessons, or like, apparently all the shit he taught them they didn't use because like they're climbing on sets and like you can't even
in front of green screen.
Right. Half my notes here are Bashir is back. Bashir gets to speak at 43 minutes.
Another, we haven't really talked about Bill Paxton. He's one of our favorites, I would say.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
And I like him as a villain.
He's definitely a bastard in this film.
Yeah,
he's
really
like, take all your fucking Elon Musks, your fucking billionaire freaks, and put them into like, I would say put him into an evil person, but I guess all those people are evil. But this guy, you see it on screen, and it's like, you find out. So this movie, first of all, is 2 fucking hours long. This movie does not need to be 2 fucking hours.
It should have been 80 minutes tops.
Yeah. So you find out
so
like
much filler. The scenes last so
after
long.
an hour that this fucking hermit man or whatever, fucking Master Roshi over here, like he's gonna help them so he can kill fucking Scott Glenn, because Scott Glenn was up on the mountain with his wife, and like he took the last of the fucking shit to like help them live. Dex. Like, how many times did they say fucking Dex in this movie? Like, fuck off. Like, I'm supposed to even know what the fuck that is, but, like, you know, okay, I get what it is, but, like, they're like, Dex.
Half the movie is talking about Dex.
Yeah.
And, like, who cares?
It's like this shit, I guess you inject to make it so your body doesn't freeze or something.
You get nitrogen or
I guess.
oxygen or...
They never really explain what it is to people that aren't climbers, but I guess I mean, we understood it. It's just kind of like, if you're gonna throw around this fucking word, at least have somebody talk about what it is. Like some idiot that just came up there. Like, they literally could have just put a scene, cut out most of this shit, but they didn't put a scene in here where like some idiot millionaire is like, what's a Dex? Like, you don't know what the fuck Dex is? If you don't use that shit when we're up there, we're gonna be taking you down in a body bag, you fucker. But anyway, so my original point was, they wait an hour to, you know, they finally say, okay, this guy's fucking going after this guy because he fucking killed his wife. And, like, so this guy's, like, a straight-up, like, bastard. He's, like, a fucking, you know, ne'er-do-well, and he's over here, like, leaving people to die and, like, taking their deck so he can live. And it's, like, one of the things I will, besides the other actors, I will give it to it, is he fucking, like, he has that fucking look that's, like, Josh Brolin or whatever. It's, like, you believe he could fucking kill you, like, in your sleep. Because, like, when he's, like, looking at her and other people in the cave looking, like... when they're about to die, or like he's thinking, oh, I should take this shit for myself, it's like, okay, this guy's, I would not trust this fucker. So yeah, for sure. He at least was able to convey some sort of like, this guy's a fucking person I wouldn't trust kind of thing. But it was in a movie that sucked. And but anyway, that was kind of my thing, I guess, about that. Like,
yep, I'm with you. This movie's directed by your boy Martin Campbell, director of Goldeneye. An actual good movie.
Yeah. He did a good movie. Eventually.
He did two good Bond movies, because he also did Casino Royale.
Ah.
And one bad climbing movie.
So, this line, smoking next to the nitro, that's a great idea. Bro in here always hoped that you'd blow us. And I was like, together? Like, what the fuck, dude? It's just like, those are the Australian brothers. It's like, okay.
Great comic relief that's not comic.
Movie takes an hour for it to even fucking do something. Good God. Explosion. I gave up at the end. I just don't really have a lot of notes here.
Yeah, it's so boring and like bland, and who could care?
I do have to say, one of my last notes is at 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 33 seconds. The Australian brother and Bashir get blown the fuck up, which I paused it and like frame by framed it.
I did too. They turned into skeletons. That was awesome.
Which makes zero sense. It's like they fucked even that up, but it's funny to watch. Yeah. But like,
I'm glad you mentioned that. That was pretty funny.
They're sitting here and like the fucking shit blows up, the nitrous oxide or whatever the fuck, nitro, and it blows up, and
they turn into animated skeletons, like hand drawn. It was so crappy looking.
Well, not only that, but like if you're blown up, your skeletons aren't. It's not like your outside of your body is like armor for your skeleton. It's not like it would be unfazed. So it was funny to see the rest of their, like, everything else got vaporized, but the skeletons like fly off screen. But it's like so fast you. Like in one frame, in one frame you could kind of make out they were skeletons. Like the only reason you knew is because they were white. But it was like,
yeah. Now I love this movie. Now that I'm thinking,
they're like,
that was so awesome.
Huh! Oh man, we fucking finally, boom! They like fly off screen. That's probably the only good thing in this movie, honestly. Yeah.
Well, our experiment failed. We're gonna try again soon with Bruiser, and I hope we have a better outcome.
Yeah. I don't think it failed. I think that we found out. Yeah. You know, so we were able to go back, and the only way it would fail is if we just didn't do it at all, I guess. So I guess what would you?
I'm gonna go 3.95.
We're pretty close on this one.
Yeah.
I give it 5 points for Bashir, 5 points for Boba Fett, 2 points for that explosion, and then negative 10 points for a man's toeless foot. So 2.95.
That math adds up.
I know.
I like it.
But all jokes aside,
don't see Vertical Line.
I think this
Watch
is,
Cliffhanger.
I think this is the worst film that I've seen on this podcast.
Oh wow. No, Necrotronic was way worse.
I rated this one lower than Necrotronic.
Really?
Yeah, at least
I'd watch this a million times before I watched that.
I would
But
just
that's like
not watch.
comparing-
I would not watch either one. So let's just say that I'm not. If somebody put a gun to my head and was like, "Watch either one," I'd be like, "Okay, well, I'll watch one. You pick." I guess that's not a good thing because I'm not gonna fucking blow my head off rather than watch a movie. But like, I'm like, this movie's so bad, I'd rather be dead.
Stick to your guns, man.
Yeah, but like, I would rather. I'd rather just not watch either one. Let's just say that. To me, it's like they're equally fucking shit.
There's lots of good
For different
movies.
reasons. That's the thing. So yeah, like you said, there's a lot of you should be fucking spending your time like, you know, watching a better climbing movie or just like do some fucking yard work or something. I don't know. This movie's just like a chore to get through.
Yep.
Agreed. I did the special thing where I was doing something in the background while I was like watching this film on my phone. So I was paying attention to it the whole time, but I wasn't paying attention to every single tiny thing like I would be if I was watching a movie. Like
You missed so many great details.
I know, right? Well, it's like when I do this, I don't miss the good stuff. I didn't miss like the explosion. It was just like at the end when fucking Scott Glenn cuts the fucking rope and kills him and fucking, or not Scott Glenn. Was it Scott Glenn? Yeah, he kills him and Bill Paxton.
You're like, yay.
Okay.
Next.
Like, met this guy like an hour into the film, so I knew the bad guy longer than I knew the fucking hero in this fucking situation. So
It did make me want to grow a long beard and then shave it dry. Because that's only true badasses shave like that.
yeah, I did that like one time when I was younger and it was not fun. Bad idea. I didn't get cut. It was just like ripping all my hairs out because there was no lubrication. Yeah, what else more is there to say about this fucking
Let's
dog
move on.
shit? Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. Because Batman
return.
has returned to the. Let's return to the world of DC Comics, with Batman Returns starring Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, and Michelle Pfeiffer. I like having a DVD here to like hold and present.
I noticed you're enjoying that.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, we did an episode on Batman,
Yes.
but you're telling me he's returned?
So, as much as I like this film, the title is kind of weird. Batman Returns, like it's like he didn't really leave Gotham. So, but
He returns to the big screen
yes.
in the summer of 1992.
So this movie has what's the runtime on this? Does it say on the DVD?
It's over 2 hours, a little over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like 2 something. But so speaking of which, this movie, like we said, is 2 hours. This movie is about the exact same length. This movie doesn't feel, to me at least, I enjoyed watching this movie. This movie was like fucking, well, we just talked about it, so.
We'll get into it, but I also think this movie is a little too long as well.
There are,
and you
I
may
mean,
disagree,
there's
but
probably scenes in it, but like, I don't think I've ever seen a film where like 2 hours is usually justified, to tell you the truth. I mean, I know there's people out there that are like, well, they gotta get all the stuff in, and it would be different. Like, this is a movie that's made. On one hand, I'm glad that they have this many people that are like being focused on. I'm glad they spent a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, they also have kind of side stuff that's being done. That,
There's
like,
so much.
like
in this
Max
movie.
Shrek that like that's fine, but like this he gets a little too much time in my opinion.
Oh yeah, he's almost one of the leads.
like
You could put his face right next to those three.
like to me, obviously, like the big stars in this are like these three. Anytime they're on screen, you're like fuck yeah, but then like you've got like a bunch of other random bullshit. But
I like this movie.
Yeah.
It's good, but I mainly like the last maybe half hour or so. I'm like, all right, let's wrap it up. Like I've had enough. It takes a little bit too long.
Yeah, the climax should have like arrived a little sooner.
Yeah, it goes on quite a bit, but
we'll get into why, how, when, where, and who it's about.
So what's your history with this movie?
Well, I filmed it back in the day. I was on set. No, I didn't see this in theaters, but I'm pretty sure we got the VHS at some point of like the first one and this one, and like holy shit, Batman's awesome and stuff. This movie was great, but I don't like. Travis has never seen this film, like my brother. I'm sure if he did at the time, he would have fucking had a nightmare or something.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Because this movie is like, it was controversial when it was released because like
this movie essentially ruined why we went to like the fucking like horrible ones after this, with like them being like more campy and less like,
Tim Burton really pushed the boundaries of like what can be like too scary and too intense,
right,
for a movie that kids were gonna see.
And just in general, he had been doing that for a while. But like you said, once Batman 1 came out and then they did the sequel,
he had his blank check to do whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah. and he did. And watching this, I mean, it's like once again, mothers ruin everything. Not mothers. I'm not saying like all mothers. I'm saying like mothers complain and got something fucking ruined or taken down. But this was essentially, this movie like ruined, the mothers ruined any hopes of Michael Keaton returning as Batman and Tim Burton continuing. And instead we got a bunch of other lame, watered down movies after this. But just watching this and the first one, it definitely makes me like wish they had continued with this continuity, because this is like, to me, like prime live action Batman.
Yeah, my parents were part of that because we saw this in theaters and they were not happy. Not that they're against like.
No, I can see.
A movie that was PG-13 was not this intense and scary.
Yeah,
like, hardly ever.
Well,
and my sister is still traumatized by this movie.
There were things in the first one that were like fucked up and stuff. Like obviously, like it wasn't really a movie just for kids, but it's also like, I mean, these movies aren't really for kids, but at the same time, it's Batman. It's like, I mean, honestly, if this movie came out now, no one would give a fuck because people let their kids watch like Walking Dead and stuff.
Exactly.
But like,
times have changed quite a bit.
Back then, it's also like, I mean, you went from this and then, I mean, I think honestly, Penguin's for sure the thing that did it, because he's like fucking spewing bile and he's fucking eating fucking, raw
also, Christopher
fish.
Walken gets turned into like a slunk meat monster.
That's like, yeah, he gets like comically fucking electrocuted, which I don't. There are a couple things that I remember that like kind of like grossed me out in this film, and I think that's more what did it for me when I was younger, was like the gross out factor of the way they portrayed Penguin to be like more of like a monster, and like kind of the things that like goes along with that, also mixed with like the sexuality of like Catwoman. And so it's funny, no one ever really had any problem with Batman just straight up fucking murdering all the villains. So this came out in 92. And like you said, like Tim Burton,
500 years after Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Sure. Should have sailed straight into this one. So like why did he sail the
Why did
ocean
I do
blue?
it?
Yeah, why did you do it, Matt? So it's like the sequel to Batman, like we were talking about. So this takes place, the first one's 89, this is 92. And even though this is like the second installment, and like, I guess what they started doing like the James Bond thing where they replaced the actor, like George Clooney, and then like, what's his face?
Val Kilmer,
yeah. So But like in this movie, this is kind of like a who's who, especially for the time. We've got Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, Christopher Walken, Michael Gow, Pat Hingle, and Michael Murphy. These are like the main people in the film. I'm like, these are the side people. But this movie starts off legit because it's got like the WB logo with like the awesome Danny Elfman Batman theme that went over into like the animated series and stuff. So
I think my favorite part of this movie might be the opening credits sequence.
Oh yeah, well it's
like the most.
It's kind of like the last one too, where it's like so good. It's like
like disturbing but funny and weird and cool, and it's great.
We've got Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman as Penguin's dad. I'm sorry, I don't know Oswald Cobblepot's dad's actual name. My fuck up. And
they should make a series about him. The Rise of Oswald Cobblepot's dad.
So it would be
Pee-wee.
Well, it would be like about his dad then. Diane Salinger is Penguin's mother, who was in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, who Tim Burton also directed that film, and she played Simone. She was like the roadside diner person that wanted to move to Paris. And in this movie, Pee-wee and her are married, essentially. So maybe this is like a sequel to Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
It's part of the PWCU. Pee-wee Cinematic Universe.
PCU. PWCU. So they try to like fucking abort his ass.
Throw away their son.
They throw him in the water, but they like don't. They put him in like a bassinet. I was like, why didn't you just throw him in there by itself? So
it's really messed up.
Yeah, but yeah, not like I'm saying you should have fucking killed him, but
you're like, finish the job.
But
they didn't understand the assignment.
They didn't. Maybe they subconsciously didn't want to kill him, but they keep him in a fucking cage and he like eats the cat. So, wonder why he turned out to be a monster. They fucking kept him in a cage. So we cut to 33 years later. So we're led to believe that like Penguin is like maybe 34 or 35 years old in this film. He's looking all of that. So the history with like Batman and Penguin mainly is that like it's like you take two pretty much exact same things where like, you know, Batman's like born to rich parents, so is like Oswald Cobblepot, but like he's born looking differently and his parents never really loved him, and like Batman's parents loved him, so it's like
nature over nurture.
Yeah, they kind of like turned out differently, to say the least, due to their circumstances. So that's kind of like what they kind of show in this too, is they bring out that like, you know, you kind of see it like if Penguin had just been given any sort of like attention or love, he might have been like a good person.
Yeah.
Because like there's one point at which he's like, people were actually kind of treating him nice, and he seems to like, he doesn't even like focus on his plan to kill like these kids.
Yeah.
That was his main plan. So for half the movie, well, more than half the movie, the last 30 minutes, you don't even know what his main plan was. So, but like, he wasn't even going to do that until he got fucking betrayed.
Yeah.
Batman essentially fucks himself in this movie, though, because he like, if he hadn't done that, then Penguin wouldn't have enacted that plan.
That's true. I didn't think about
it. Yeah. But I guess people also could say like Batman creates all these villains, but I guess that's like chicken or the egg.
Who made who?
Yeah. Who made who? Batman's like, spinning like a dynamo. It's like, what the fuck is a dynamo?
I love the look of this movie. Like, this movie is so beautiful. It's like a masterpiece of visual art.
I think that's why Batman and Batman Returns are so great is I was thinking on the drive over here actually how about one of the things, like, I know we both kind of complain about superhero movies, but like I think it's mainly because like they feel so like literally just people putting on costumes and just acting like
sometimes CGI costumes
in the real like world, where like this is like
they create a world.
Well, it's like this is Gotham City, like Batman, like the newer movies where like Batman Begins and all that stuff, it's like literally Chicago and shit, and it's like
I hate that so much.
That's the thing. That's why like I'm not trying to like shit on like the guy that made those movies, like, because he's made a good stuff, I think, like, but it's like that you're totally missing the point because Gotham City is like one of the main characters in Batman. Like every other city can look normal for the most part, like Metropolis, like all that stuff, but like Batman's like city, Gotham City, it looks it's like the worst looking city you've ever seen. Like even if it's daylight out, it's still like you can hardly see anything because it's got that like
it's dark all the time,
noir gothic looking like hot, super high rise. Like everything is so high up. It's like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like Dick Tracy style.
Yeah.
It's when you see it, it's like, dude, nothing exists like this. But like when you see a movie like Batman Begins or The Dark Knight Rises, you're like, okay, well that's Chicago. That's this.
I was there a few weeks ago.
Yeah, this is this place. And they try to stitch together a Gotham City from different, shots of stuff. Like, even the fucking video games, I mean, obviously they can do whatever they want, but it's like...
The video games they play me?
Yeah, the video! It's like, who made who? It's like, oh, the video game made me. It's like, what? I guess some people.
Yeah, the matte paintings are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the production design of this movie, like, it's Oscar-worthy stuff.
Yes, I agree. Alfred walking through the city. There's not enough Alfred in this film.
Could always use more Alfred. Batman's
Alfred.
butler.
Yeah, Rise of Batman's butler.
I love how Batman scolds him in this movie for letting.
Yeah, it's like it's a throwback to the first film, and it's like,
what were you thinking, Alfred? You dork.
Yeah, they do an Austin Powers in this where they don't have like her come back. Yeah. So he's like,
sadly, we knew all along.
Yeah,
he was a fembot.
So like Vicky Vale isn't in this film. No one wants to bust that body. That time you were like listening to that song and your mom was like, she's like, no. I didn't even know what the fuck that they were talking about until recently when we watched that movie again, and it was like we talked about the soundtrack and was like, wait a minute.
If anyone watching this, like, shut this down and just watch the Bat Dance music video on YouTube, you will not be disappointed.
Prince goes fucking nuts. Alfred usually is like portrayed with like a mustache. This version of Alfred that's like he's the only person to return through Batman all the way to like I think Batman Forever or Batman and Robin. I can't remember what the last
I think he's in all
is.
of them. Yeah.
He's the only person to return throughout all the films, and he returns as Robin.
Dude, that would be awesome.
He returns as Alfred. Who's he played by?
Michael Goff.
Thank you.
And he is also in Sleepy Hollow, another Tim Burton joint.
So he's awesome. Alfred, I love Alfred. Alfred's the father that Batman or that Bruce Wayne needed.
Yeah.
After his parents were gruesomely murdered. Christopher Walken as Max Shrek. Halfway through this movie, I was like, they say Shrek, and I was like, oh fuck, dude, this guy's name's Shrek. So yeah, he's not an ogre, but he acts like one. This guy is another like billionaire tycoon that's like he's doing like underhanded shit, like dumping. I mean, this was like an 80s and 90s thing. Toxic waste was like the big thing that people were doing. They were dumping toxic waste everywhere. I don't know where that came from. I guess, I mean, I'm sure it happens and it, still happens, but like, that was a big thing. Like, people were dumping toxic waste and people would find out about it. They're fucking a bastard. Like,
don't let Captain Planet hear about Max Shrek.
I was just thinking about that. So we got Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman, Selena Kyle.
So for me, watching the movie again this time, she stole the show. She's so good in this.
She's good. I like. I'll always be a fan of Danny DeVito as Penguin, but honestly, to me, like Michael Keaton was probably like the person that I found to be like the least entertaining, but he also seemed to have like the least amount of scenes. Weirdly enough,
it's all about the villains in this movie.
It's all about the villains, baby.
But I just think Michelle Pfeiffer is wickedly talented.
I wouldn't say that. I would though. Gotcha. Wicked. Exactly.
What's that even mean? Like, I understand what talented means, but like wicked means like you're evil.
Yeah. Catwoman, Selena Kyle, played by Adele Dazeem. But no, I agree with you. Like her, when she like flips it on, it's like honestly, she reminded me of Christopher Reeves when he like played Clark Kent, and then when he goes Superman, it's like, dude, this is how you do it. Like, I don't know. Like to me, there are a few people that have been able to do it as good as Christopher Reeves as Superman. It's like you have to be believable as a fucking nerd.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like that's the whole thing. But sorry, I don't really talk about Marvel stuff, but like when we talk about DC stuff, it's like I could talk about it probably all day. But I'll try not to. Did they do a good job of teasing the Penguin like they did for the Joker in the last one? Mm-hmm. And they finally show him off, turtle style sewers. We've got a circus gimmick that was unleashed. It's kind of when I was younger, I think I was confused because the last movie had like a character named the Joker that you would think this would be his fucking gimmick, but then the Penguin like uses the same gimmick, like he uses a circus gimmick with clowns. But
yeah, the Joker had like an army of goons, henchmen, and like mimes.
Yeah. So maybe like if they made another one with the Tim Burton universe, it would be like Two-Face would have like Two-Face fucking clowns. Like, okay, guys,
we get it. Maybe Tim Burton loves clowns.
Maybe you shouldn't have killed off the Joker in the first act. It's all backwards. What's with that? So Michael Keaton like is brooding in the dark. Like this is where I'm pretty sure they get the whole thing of Batman just sitting in a dark room.
Yep.
Because he's literally in a fucking like there's no lights on, and like he's just like, and then like the bat signal flashes, and he's like. And it's like, okay, like, but it's just funny that a dude would literally just be sitting in the dark. Like, who the fuck does that?
Yeah, you don't do that all night?
Yeah. I did that. I was doing that after I saw Vertical Limbo. Guy on a fire while dude's juggling. These dudes, like, get unleashed, and it's like, all hell breaks loose.
It's a pretty cool scene.
Which this scene reminds me of the Batman Returns Super Nintendo game.
Oh.
Which, you're always bringing up the video game tie-ins and stuff like that. This was a game that I actually remember playing, and it was actually a video game that's based on a movie that was really good because it was just. I remember. You've played it, right? I'm sure.
I think we probably rented it back in the day.
But it was like just one of those like games like Turtles, where
that was
like,
a good one.
You beat up people, and it's made by Konami, just like Turtles. So really, really good. One of the first scenes. I think the first scene is actually this scene where like he goes and fights the clown, like the dudes with skull heads on motorcycles and fire breathers, the strong man, stuff like that. It's like really cool. Then we've got like our first fucking murder. The dude is fire breathing. Batman turns his car around and burns him to death. Little tit for tat. But the thing that I thought was weird that Batman has a gimmick on his car that turns his fucking car around, like lifts it up in the air. Just, I'm sure. I mean,
you never know.
I'm sure there's uses for that, but it definitely seemed like it was specifically made just to turn the car around to use the afterburners to kill the fuck out of this dude
for that one scene.
Yeah. Speaking of which, this is definitely like movie tie-in. Like, I'm sure there was like McDonald's.
There was, and I think after the movie was released, they had to drop their because they were doing Happy Meals, and all the parents were like freaking out because their kids were traumatized from the movie.
But I remember there was also like tons of toys and stuff for all these, because there's also like a part later on in the film where the Batmobile like cuts all of its limbs off. So that doesn't happen.
Its limbs remain intact.
The Batmobile like lost a wheel.
I had to take my car into the dealership the other day because
they cut all its limbs off.
Lost a limb.
Car's like, how tall are you? But it like shrinks down essentially. Like it loses some stuff, and essentially every Batman after this one has like ripped off of that because like I think they did that with like the Christopher Nolan ones where like it lost its big part and like became like a fucking cycle or some shit. I lost my big part.
Little bat cycle.
Yeah. Batman like pulls a chunk of wall out and knocks a dude out with it. Seems kind of like the most roundabout way to like save somebody.
It's like, you missed. Did I miss?
Yeah, exactly. It felt exactly like that, like an Austin Powers or James Bond kind of thing. So we talked about Max Schreck. Christopher Walken definitely is like. It's funny watching this because it's like also him in the Bond movies at License to Kill.
View to a Kill.
View to a Kill. Where he
it's almost
plays
the same character.
I mean,
like a billionaire,
kind of
evil.
Christopher Walken for me. Like I like him, but he's. It's mainly because of the way he talks. It's like, you know, certain people you can't mistake who they are, like Jeff Goldblum or like Nick Cage. Like when they're in a film, you're like, nobody else can like talk like this. Mm-hmm. So he's like has an inflection and all this other stuff. So somebody says they almost made off with Max Schreck. Where's that son of a bitch? And then he's like, so how can you like say they almost made off with him when you like don't know where he is?
Good question.
I was like, what? Okay.
I thought it was cool that they named him Max Schreck because that's named after the actor that played Nosferatu.
Oh, nice. Movie. Okay.
So it's a nice little homage.
Danny DeVito, the Penguin. What more can you say?
Yeah, he's
the best.
Quite memorable.
Yes. And he's also like when he finally gets into his full like Penguin's like get up and stuff. It looks awesome.
Yep. Such a cool design.
And it's cool because they. It's kind of like how he looks from this point forward because like he has this. He's small. He's threatening, but he's like got this regality to him because he wears like a suit and a top hat, and he always has a monocle. And it's like if you look at all the games and the movies and the cartoons, like that's essentially what all of them are based on. Like for the most part, are based on like this and the Batman animated series because they're so beloved, and they look great. I mean, like you said, it's iconic. Like he's got like the long like Waluigi hook nose or whatever. It's like, you know, people. You just know right away. It's like, oh, that guy's a fucking penguin.
I don't think anyone could do it better than Danny DeVito in this movie.
Nobody does it better, perfect. But sometimes I wish they would. Nobody does it better. It's like, okay. So, like, if you wish that somebody would, then, like, maybe they don't do it the best. I was wondering, and I found out. So, like, Selena Kyle gets pushed out of a window to her death by Christopher Walken. Or, well, Max Schreck, not Christopher Walken. But, she's kind of, like, catatonic.
No pun intended.
I
see what you did there.
She kind of comes back, and she's a zombie.
Nice.
Kind of. I mean, like, it's weird. Like, she comes back to her apartment and redoes everything she just did. And then she, like, for some reason turns, like...
She does have supernatural powers.
She instantly turns goth.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah. It's funny because, like, the Catwoman movie with, like, Halle Berry where she got some weird supernatural powers, like, people fucking hated that. But in this one it works because it's, like... It's just... It's not, like, over-explained. It just kind of happens. And it's also, like... There's also other weird shit in this. You know, I like when they go that far because in the Batman universe in DC, like, there are, like, characters who are like that. So it's, like... It's a superhero movie after all. Like it doesn't have to be super realistic.
Exactly.
Like, come on. Like
that scene where she goes back to her apartment.
Yeah.
Like that's a cool scene, but that's a good example of like it goes on a little too long.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in this movie. I think that's my only complaint.
I kind of agree with you. Yeah, especially on certain scenes.
There's just this movie's like, so overstuffed with stuff.
The problem is like this, as good as this movie is, this started the two villains per movie, and like they went overboard with the ones after this, and it was like each movie had to have like two main big people in it. You know, Tommy Lee Jones as like Two-Face, and like Jim Carrey as the Riddler, and Arnold as Mr. Freeze, and Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, and it was like, how the fuck are you supposed to give any of these characters a memorable or careable backstory when like you're cutting around all the time? And I mean, having said that, I mean, those were great scenes to learn about these characters, and I think they did, like, a pretty good job of having all the characters interact, but it's, like, it's hard to pull that off in, like, a timely manner and make people actually give a shit about it.
Yep,
so,
for sure.
We've got the Penguin returning the baby due to, like, falsities set up, and he's kind of become like, oh, a good guy now, or not a good guy now. I guess nobody knew who he was, but so he, is unveiled to the world, and everybody's just like, oh, he saved a baby, he's so great, and like, all this shit, and like, later on they're like, run for mayor, and he runs for mayor, and then fucking like, Batman fakes a fucking like, fakes some shit for him to say, and the crowd instantly turns on him, like he's not even speaking, like his lips aren't moving, and the crowd see that, and they're still like, fucking bullshit, and I'm like, damn, dude, these guys are like...
That was one of my favorite lines in the movie, though, was when he's getting pelted with vegetables, and he's like, why do they always bring tomatoes and eggs into the...
Yeah, and I was like, how would he know if this is like the first time he's ever...
That was so funny. Great line.
I did think that, like, Michael Keaton, as little as he is in this film, he does, like, a really good job of portraying, like, the part of Batman that they don't see as much, where, like, he cares about, like... people. Like, at the end of the day, he doesn't want the Penguin to be up to no good. He's like, I really hope he finds his parents, stuff like that. And when he finds out like he's up to some bullshit, he's like, you were right, and he's like, I wish I wasn't, you know what I mean, like that kind of stuff. Whereas like most of the time it's like, when they had Christian Bale back, he's just beating the fuck out of people, and it's like, you don't really I don't know,
swear to me.
Yeah.
I love when the Penguin bit that dude's nose off and a huge stream of blood just squirts out. I'm like, good lord, man.
That was fucking...
This movie's not messing around.
That wasn't the part that made me disgusted. It was like, so... This is what I specifically remember from when I was younger. What grossed me out is like, he's walking around in these like, in his dirty like long john underwear. And I thought this was like the grossest thing. And even watching it now, I was like, dude, this is so fucking inappropriate.
This is very off-putting.
And it's so, because it's also like, he's in this shit, and then he's like, oh, I want to have sex with this woman, like this lady, after he like bites the nose of this dude. And it's just the thought of like Penguin in this gross fucking shit. It's kind of like Uncle Fester having sex in Addams Family Values. It's like, to me, it was so beyond the pale of like, just thinking about that. Of course, that's another like, kind of deal where it's like, what the fuck? Like,
that's one thing that separates this movie. As you said, it's like, it's very sexual.
Yeah.
And I love how part of the Penguin's goals is like just to get laid. Like most villains in comic book movies don't, like, they want to take over the world or something.
He's never felt the hand. Or he's never felt the flipper of a loving person. Speaking of which, like...
Flipper's got a flip.
Fucking flippers in this film. So, we've got a perfect paper throw from Keaton to Max Schreck. I thought that was pretty legit. I wonder how many times they had to practice that. Or if it was a one go.
Yeah.
Or one take freaks. Do you think you can go 15 rounds with Muhammad Schreck? What the fuck are you talking about? So Muhammad Ali exists in the fucking DC universe, apparently.
Apparently.
But it was like, that line. Another line that didn't really like land for me is when, like, as much as I like Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, when she says, "I am Catwoman, hear me roar."
Yeah.
I was like, no, don't say that.
As the kids say today, cringe.
Yeah. I was like, massive L.
These lines are sus.
I was like, take the L.
But speaking of practicing, did you know that Michelle Pfeiffer did all of her own whipping? But she didn't do all of her own nay-naying.
She's like... I didn't know that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, like when she whips those things off in that one scene. Like that,
I guess that makes sense,
real.
Because how the fuck would you fake that?
Yeah.
As far as, because it's like... They don't do cutaways, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
Impressive.
She was awesome. I agree with you. Like, she's awesome in this film. Like, to me, it's like, I think, like, I put her and Penguin on the same thing. So that's... I love Batman, but Batman is the constant in all these movies. And he's, The first movie was more about him setting up, like, Batman and setting up the Joker. And then this one is just like Batman's already established. He's like the constant, and that's kind of how it is in most of these like stories too. With like Batman the animated series, he's in it, but a lot of them are told through this perspective of like how the villains became villains and stuff. And it's like that's good storytelling because you get to find out like if some dude just shows up, who the fuck cares who this guy is if he's just a random fuck? He's a random fuck. So he's eating raw ass fish.
That was gross.
Sushi. Yeah, it was. At first, I was like, "That's gross," but I was like, "Well, I guess it's like just sushi, right?" So, where do you get the fish though? Did he get it from like Gotham River?
Good
so
question.
that's fucking gross, man. That's like people catching octopi in the Ohio River.
Yeah, sewer fish.
Sewer surfing. Heat-seeking programmable batarang. This was a toy, I'm sure.
I'm sure it was.
So this. It's just one of many funny looks that like Michael Keaton makes in this Batman suit. He throws the batarang and it knocks out 3 of the dudes. It goes to knock out the woman. The dog that she has with her jumps and grabs it, and he goes. It's like, huh? Like
it is cartoonish.
Yeah, but it it is. I can't really say anything other than that about it. But I did like how they're like, oh, we're not gonna knock out a woman or whatever. But like later on, like Batman's beating the fuck out of Catwoman. But they portray Catwoman as unequal to Batman, which she is in the comics and stuff, as far as like.
And she does have actual 9 lives. Like she
Right.
can be killed multiple times and return from the grave.
So pulls a sword out of a sword swallower's throat, which he would be dead because you have to pull a sword out a very specific way.
R.I.P.
So, yeah, he like bent him over and was like pulled it out, and the guy's like. So she's whipping mannequins indie style, or was it Catwoman style? So we
You
got.
think Harrison Ford does all his own whipping and as the 80-year-old Indiana Jones?
I guess we'll see when the new movie comes out.
November 24th.
Ah, is that when it comes out?
No.
Oh. Maybe like Batman should have just ducked, and all the police would have shot the windows instead of shooting down at him, like in the trailer. So at 57 minutes, we've got the Wilhelm scream. Batman sends a dude to his death, and it's
very noticeable.
Yeah. So then we've got Batman kills the fuck out of a dude. He like punches a strong man and puts a bomb down his pants, and he's fucking dead.
So I never knew about the rule of Batman doesn't kill people because, like, I didn't read the comic books. I'd only seen the movies where he kills lots of people. So
it's funny because that wasn't always something that was like around. Like in the beginning, Batman like used to shoot people with a gun and shit.
Yeah.
But then like when they kind of made him less goofy and started to make him more like serious, he started like. I think that mainly also came from like in the animated series. Like, which was based off of this, obviously. It's like, that's a continuation of this, essentially, like, in animated form of this universe. They couldn't just have Batman fucking blowing people up and shit for a kid's show. So, I think that, but it became so much bigger than, like, the movies almost. So, like, they ended up kind of taking that and running with it and being like, well, what if he just, like, didn't kill people and he tried to, like, find out, you know, how to, like, save people and stuff. Like more so like the villains and crap. In this movie, this is definitely before any of that's put into effect, and he's fucking blowing the fuck out of people. It's so weird. He's blowing them up. He's not blowing. But it's so weird to see, only because like now, like you said, that's like a thing that has kind of been put into his lore, is that he doesn't, which I like that. But it's also weird to see. It's funny to see him just stuff a bomb down some dude's pants and throw him into the sewer, and he's like, boom!
Yeah, that was great.
It's definitely, I think it also came from the time of like the 80s and 90s when like the good guy would just kill people, like he would kill the bad guy.
All about that body count.
So it was like made zero sense, but it was a fun movie.
Stallone and Schwarzenegger were literally competing.
Yeah,
Who could have the higher body?
Yeah, to see who could be like, who could spend more time in jail. Batman meets up with the Penguin, and like, they finally meet on screen, which was cool. I just wish there was more interactions between the characters, just in general, because those are the things that I always like to see. Is like the Penguin talking to Batman and stuff, and you know, he kind of becomes an informant for him, like in some of the shows and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. But like, he's got a really cool thing that they kind of like bring into all the other. I mean, this kind of leads into all the other stuff they do from here on. Is like the Penguin has like the umbrella that is like multi stuff. He's got like, it's kind of like Batman gadgets, but he's got this really cool like copter. He like stands on it and like flies away on his umbrella copter. Batman and Catwoman are like fighting on a rooftop, and she like raises her hand, and he gets scared for some reason. Did you see that? I was like, what? She's like, and he's like, and I was like, huh? Like, why are you? So I thought he threw water on her, but it was like, I guess acid because she gets burned. I could totally see why like the parents were not pleased with this, especially this line where like Catwoman goes to see Penguin, and she's like, or talking to her and stuff, and he's like, just the pussy I've been looking for. And I was like, what? How did you fucking get away with putting this in a film you knew kids were gonna go see? Like, okay,
Tim Burton's being a bad boy,
but it's I mean it's I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, they used to in cartoons be like, back when like they would, instead of a cat, they would say, oh, where's the puss, or whatever, and it's like, of course now, I mean, that means something that people talk about that's different, but
wait, what?
Naked sexual charisma. This guy's like Fat Bastard over here. He's like, I'm dead sexy.
He's like Fat Bastard's grosser brother.
Fat Bastard's fucking like uncle. So I thought this was kind of cool. Like, Selena Kyle like meets up with Bruce Wayne. Like, they're just kind of in the street, and he sees her, and she's like, they're talking. He's like, are you gonna go to that thing tonight? She's like, no, I don't know. And he's like, it's gonna be a hot time in a cold town tonight. Like, quoting the Joker, like when he said that, and I was like, never noticed that. It's a pretty cool callback to the first film.
I didn't catch that.
Batman tells Catwoman to eat floor. I was like, what? He's like, eat floor. And I was like, Jesus! I didn't write this down, but I was just thinking about how funny this was when, like, they were first fighting, and she's like, how dare you? And you're like, I can't believe you would hit a woman. He's like, I'm sorry, and then she, like, beats his ass, and I was like, can't believe you fell for that.
That reminds me how funny it is in the first one when Joker was like, you wouldn't hit a man with glasses, would you?
Yeah!
After he's getting his ass beat.
Yeah.
He's all bloody. It's great.
Yeah. So there's a part here where like Batman's up on top of the roof, and they like scare this lady, and she like falls to her death, and some dude points up and says, Batman pushed the princess. And I was thinking, with like how high up and poorly lit Gotham City is, how the fuck did he even see that Batman was even up there, let alone where she fucking came from? Because she like just falls on the thing, and it's like, it was fucking Batman! All these years of him saving people, he just wanted to kill this one person. I was like,
how high are you?
Yeah. This is literally like, like total ridiculous.
I think you found the one logic flaw in this.
Yeah! So we talked about the helicopter umbrella. And now we're talking about the helicopter noose for Catwoman.
Yep.
I've never seen that before in a film. I don't think I've ever seen it since. I should have done that in, for a few dollars or whatever. Fucking hang the dude.
Like in My Dinner with Andre. Just hang a dude with a helicopter noose.
He's like... He just keeps going up into space. It's like, go.
What'd you think of the Bat boat? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was about to like bring that up.
It's like, oh, they actually built a cool model and filmed it.
They
amazing.
Batman boat, another thing to sell a toy.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's like
I'm glad it's just the right size to fit in the sewer.
The sewer, yeah. I was like, yeah. I mean, I guess I assume that Batman, before he made this, obviously like charted out all the sewers of Gotham. But like, yeah, it was just like you said, it was the perfect size. And there was like a perfect turnoff for him to jump.
Yeah. It's like Action Jackson. That car was the perfect size to drive in that house and turn around the hallways and stuff.
What about the scene where like definitely like a scene to sell toys and stuff where like Penguin is controlling the fucking Batmobile in like his own Batmobile shaped
mini toy?
Yeah, like
that was funny.
Yeah. And like right off the bat, Batman kills like a bunch of cops and people. He like runs them over with the Batmobile, and he's like, "Shit!" But it's like, holy fuck, dude. He killed them.
Yeah, this is a part of the movie where there's a little bit too much.
Yeah, this was the part I think where like the studio was probably like, "Hey, you got to fucking put in a bunch of shit about like the toys,
more vehicles."
Shit. Yeah.
Also, I think there's so much Danny DeVito like yelling, and it becomes a little bit like yeah, abrasive. I'm like, make it stop, dude. Like, I've had enough of this guy.
You were too scared.
It just becomes a little bit annoying by the end. It's just too much, like I said earlier. But
just like too much liquid tension experiment.
Exactly. Now I know what it means.
I said, "Damn it, Penguin is back in his gross ass clothes." I did think this was weird. Well, not weird. It was kind of like an interesting touch. Even though he's a piece of shit, Max Schreck like cares a lot about his son, and he like convinces Penguin to take him instead of his son. This is the part where he's like, "I'm gonna kill all the fucking first kids," and so like,
starring Sinbad.
Yeah, he's just thinking about that. So they're stealing these kids and loading them into cages, and all the while like this baby crying sound effect is happening, but all the kids in the cages and the ones being loaded are at least like 5 years old. I was like, they're like, wah, wah, and they're like, "Hey guys," it's like, huh? They're like 20 years old, like, meh. So what do you think about like the Penguin speech where he's like speaking to the fucking like to the penguins that are like models or whatever? They're all like puppets, like.
I don't know, man. That's like.
I was like, where did this come from? Because it was so like. You saw maybe like one or two penguins in the background, like in the movie, and then randomly he's got like a penguin army, and like this was like.
They're his minions.
There's like 10 different last fucking like plans in this film. It's like. Okay, dude.
Yep, exactly.
The rubber car, or the rubber duck car, of course. And then, like, I guess the penguins were going to, like, blow up Gotham City with these rockets, because, like, they use these explosions, or, like, these rockets, and they're, like, blowing up this place, and Batman is literally just standing there like he's fucking dumbstruck. He's like, I'm like you said, this is a part of the movie where it's like, like, this should have came, like, 30 minutes earlier.
Yep, exactly.
Because this is the climax. The climax is kind of like 30 minutes. They should have cut out some stuff to like pump this up.
But through all this, like the Penguin is such like a despicable character, but when he dies, it is sad somehow and pathetic. Even though he's done all this evil stuff.
It's because he's like, they set it up that his character is like, he's a victim of circumstance.
He's busted.
He's on a voyage. Polly versus the Penguin, dude, which is more fucking annoying.
Whoever wins, we lose.
Seriously.
PvP. I'd watch it.
He's not a Batman. He's a Voyagin.
He's a penguin.
He's a what? She busted. Jesus. Then he's like, I'm gonna go and fuck this robot that's my wife. It's like, what the fuck is going on, dude? I like how they cut that out of Rocky, but it's probably one of the funniest things ever. Like, why would you cut that out?
I know. I did think it was funny and weird when Catwoman licked Batman's face. That was cool. I liked when all the black blood like comes out of Penguin's nose.
Yeah, it's like black
disgusting.
and then it's like greenish. I was like, I don't understand. Like,
he's not human.
Is he an alien?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Just more weird touches.
Batman tells Max, he says, "Shut up, you're going to jail." And I said, okay, like, and then he got killed anyway.
Spoiler alert, he's going to hell. That was a cool death though when Catwoman like
I like how
the electric kiss.
You knew he's going to hell. I guess so, right? I mean, if he's being condemned, that's funny. Spoiler alert, he's going to hell.
He pushed the woman out the window.
Yeah, that's
true.
He's
a bad man.
He's a bad man doing bad things. One thing that kind of bothers me about this, like, in part, is that, like, Batman just, like, rips his fucking head off. Mm-hmm. Well, not his head, but...
Now that would have been something.
Mortal Kombat. It's like,
Fatality.
he like breathes fire like Scorpion. It's like Max Shrek's like. He everybody knows what Batman's head looks like the mask or whatever. But he like, it's like, okay, do we know that it's rubber, but we're kind of under the illusion that this is some sort of protective suit. And literally he just rips it off, and I'm like, was that really...
Do you think Michael Keaton was like, I'm sick of wearing this mask, like, let me out of this for one scene?
I think that was probably like something where like when he unveiled, there maybe wasn't a great way for them to just like, for him to easily take it off. Like, it's not like a hood that he can like put back like the Batman animated series. It's like legit a fucking form-fitting rubber latex suit that's like looks so uncomfortable to wear. So like when I'm sure he was like, you know, when they said he could do it, I'm sure he was like the happiest person ever to just rip that off. But it's like, it kind of makes the Batman suit look fucking flimsy as hell, at least from the neck up. But like you said, the iconic death where like Catwoman, like, she not only grabs this fucking transformer, she has this fucking taser, which was kind of like, I think, a new thing for people to see at the time, because when she picks it up from like a bad guy earlier in the film, it's like, it's a novelty. But she's like kissing him fucking with the taser between them, which I was always like, dude, this is fucking fucked up.
Yeah, that's very disturbing.
Yeah.
And cool.
Yeah, exactly. But then when they find Max Shrek's body, he's like a fucking like comical skeleton. For some reason, he's a skeleton, but he still has his eyeballs in his sockets. Like the eyeballs didn't fucking bust.
They bulged out.
Yeah. It's like, what? He's like the guy when the Undertaker lost. He was like,
yeah.
It's like, okay, dude, that guy was not a plant. I was a little confused as to how the Penguin died, because he like just fell into the water. But I guess maybe, I'm assuming it was like he fell into the toxic wastewater. I don't know. But like you said, at the end of the film, it's like they made him even grosser than he's ever been. And at the end of the movie, Catwoman is alive to never come back.
Yeah. Catwoman will return in Catwoman, starring Halle Berry.
Yeah, she comes back, but not in the not in these movies. She comes back in the animated series, played by what's her name? Adrienne Barbeau.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's an all-star cast.
Cool.
Check it out. So I guess that brings an end to our Christmas extravaganza, Matt.
It's been a fun buddy miss.
It has, man. We had a good movie. We had a fucking shit movie.
We had thrills and chills.
Yeah. None of the chills came from Vertical Limit, even though it was set on a mountain. So what would you give this film?
I'm going to go 7.95.
Nice.
Like I said, it's a great movie. It's just a little bit too long and self-indulgent, I think, on Tim Burton's part.
It's been indulging selfishly.
But other than that, I mean, it's highly entertaining. Everyone should see it.
It's a classic.
Yep. I'm glad Tim Burton was able to make his as weird and dark as he wanted it to.
Yeah, me too. I think everybody knows what I'm going to give this film. A fucking goose egg! 9.95.
Nice.
Even though, you know, I guess if we're being, like, stringent on the rules, I'd have to give it, like, an 8 because I had things to say against it. But, you know what?
Hey.
I make up the fucking rules. It's 9.95.
It's a free country in Buddyland.
Yeah, and, you know, nobody's perfect down here on Earth, but we're all doing our personal best.
One by one.
Yeah. So, do we want to talk about, like, what our next 100th episode special is going to be?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about it?
Something I've been wanting to do for years and years. We're going to rank our personal rankings of James Bond movies.
And one by one, we're going to do our personal best. But I'm excited. I don't know if we've ever talked about, in all the years that we've known each other, I don't know if we've ever talked
James
rankings. Who the fuck is
We
this?
did rankings, remember, when we ranked, we'd watched a bunch of them on VHS and...
Well, we did, like, years ago at, like, our friend's house, we did, like, he had us all sit down and, like, rank the beginnings. And I hadn't seen, like, most of the films, so I was like, ugh. But that was fun. But it's been a while, so... And I don't really remember... We've also had a bunch of new Bond movies come out, so we'll definitely talk about all that fun stuff. Yeah. It'll be an extravaganza, the likes of which we've never talked about, or you've seen. So, I guess there's just one more thing to say, and it's Merry Christmas, and once again, I hope you guys have a great holiday. As Batman said, goodwill towards men and women, and the Buddy Boys. Rewind it, that's what he said.
Bye.
Looks like Buddy Claus dropped our gifts down the chimney like he does every year.
I don't know why he just doesn't put them in the... I was going to say post bucket. What the fuck is that?
Post bucket.
What's that called? The...
Mailbox?
Yeah. Dude, what the fuck? Like when I call the remote a volumizer.
I still do that.
Do you?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Jesus. Scared the shit out of me. Well, maybe I shouldn't zoom in because... The problem is, they're not even the right DVDs.
Oh, I was going to say, what is that?
Holy shit! I don't know if I should say shit for a Christmas episode.
I think you should.
Okay. Holy shit!
What is it? Why would I ask you?
Why would I? Oh my god. Yeah, okay, so like what would...
I think first we should...
What is it?
Like, what is it, me?